The first sound was not a growl. It was a whisper. Soft, wet, like something licking the inside of your ear. Sam heard it before the others did. He froze halfway through the dark hallway, flashlight shaking in his hand. Behind him, Caleb and Micah kept walking, quiet, careful steps. Then they stopped too. "Did you hear that?" Sam asked, voice just a breath. They were standing in what used to be someone's house. The windows were boarded up. The floor creaked even when nobody moved. Every wall was cracked like it had been bitten by time. But the smell, that was fresh. It smelled like iron and rot, like something that once lived but didn't anymore. Micah, the smallest of the three, pointed his flashlight up. There, in the ceiling, was a small black hole. A drop of something red fell from it. Plip. It hit the floor between Sam's shoes. It was thick, still warm. Not water. Not rust. "Don't say it," Caleb whispered. "I didn't," said Sam. But they were all thinking it. What? They weren't supposed to be here. Not after sunset. Especially not now. Because it was nearly 9 o'clock. And everyone in town knew what happened at 9 o'clock. That's when Jonah changed. Before the whisper started, Jonah was just a man. A lonely, tired man who walked with a limp and spoke to no one. But at night, something wore his skin. Something tore its way out from the inside like his bones were cages. And when it came out, it hunted. It didn't chase for fun. It didn't kill for hunger. It killed because it remembered. Sam's father was taken by the creature last year. Micah's the year before. Caleb never found a body. Just a shirt, his dad's favorite, stuck to the trunk of a tree, soaked in red and split clean down the middle. Tonight they were here to finish it. To end what wore Jonah's skin. Before it could take someone else's. Tick, tick, tick. Micah's watch hit 8:59. 1 minute left. One last breath of safety. Caleb pulled the salt from his bag. He'd drawn symbols on the floor like the book told him. Circles, crosses, broken eyes. They had one trap. One chance. Sam stepped deeper into the house. His flashlight flickered. Then went out. Darkness rushed in like a wave. And then, the whisper came again. But this time it wasn't above them. It was behind them. Micah turned slowly. In the doorway something stood. It was tall. Barefoot. Its skin looked like paper soaked in ink. Dark, shiny, thin. Its jaw hung open just a little too wide, like it didn't quite fit. And something inside the mouth moved. It wasn't breathing. It was listening. To them. To their fear. Then it smiled. The boys didn't scream. Not yet. Because the thing that used to be Jonah spoke. But it didn't use words. It used voices. Their father's voices. "I told you not to come here," it said with Sam's dad's tone. "I told you to run," it said with Micah's dad's panic. "I told you it wasn't over," it said with Caleb's dad's last breath. Then it lunged. The floor cracked as it moved. It was faster than it looked. Caleb threw the salt. Micah screamed. Sam pressed his hand to the trigger of the flare gun. Boom. A burst of red light exploded in the room. The creature reeled back, screeching like something drowning in its own throat. It hit the circle. The symbols lit up like fire beneath its feet. It stopped, twitched, and began to speak again. But this time the voice was Jonah's. Weak, broken. "Don't kill me," he begged. "I lock it away. I lock it deep. I chain it down. Please. I'm still here." Micah stared at him. At his face, half monster, half man. Tears were in his human eye. Caleb whispered, "Is it true?" Sam didn't answer. He just raised the flare gun again. And fired. Outside, as the house burned, the boys stood in silence. Then Caleb spoke. "Do you think we stopped it?" Sam watched the flames twist and scream. "I think," he said slowly, "we just made it angry." They buried what was left of Jonah in the dirt behind the old house. But the fire didn't stop burning. It hissed through the night like it was trying to say something. The boys stood there until the sky turned gray and the wind smelled like ashes and regret. They didn't speak. Not even when the screaming finally stopped. Because they all heard it. The last scream wasn't the creature's. It was Jonah's. The next morning, no one in town asked where they had been. No one ever did. People in Greystone Hollow had learned long ago, if something happens after dark, you look the other way. You close the curtains. You keep the lights off. And you never ask questions. But that day Micah noticed something. As they walked back to his house, past the old stop sign, past the empty swings at the park, he looked down and froze. There was a trail in the dust. Not footprints. Hollows. Each one shaped like a foot but sunken, like someone walked by but forgot to bring their body. That night, at exactly 9 p.m., Sam couldn't sleep. Not because he was scared, because he heard breathing. Inside his closet. Slow. Wet. Like lungs that didn't quite belong. He sat up, heart pounding. Reached for his flashlight. Turned it on. Nothing. Just his clothes. The cracked wall. His old red shoes. But when he turned off the light again, the breathing started again. Faster. Closer. Like something was waiting for him to look away. The next morning, his closet door was open, and one of his red shoes was gone. Micah was next. He woke up gasping, clutching his throat. There were scratches all around his neck, thin red lines, like invisible fingers had tried to peel something off him while he slept. His window was still locked. His door was still closed. And written on the mirror in something dark and sticky were 5 words. I never really left, Micah. The boys met at Caleb's garage. Again. Just like before. Only this time they didn't need to talk. They knew. Jonah was dead. But something inside him had survived. And now it was looking for a new place to live. I think, Caleb said, eyes locked on the floor, it's trying us on. Like clothes. Sam nodded. I think we woke it up. The part he kept buried. Micah's voice shook. Then what was Jonah? A prison, Sam whispered. And we just unlocked the door. That night they stayed together. Flashlights. Salt. Prayers. They sat in a circle in Caleb's room, watching the clock tick closer and closer to 9 p.m. And when the hour came, nothing happened. No scratching. No voices. No shadows under the door. Just silence. Cold, unnatural silence. Until Caleb blinked. Just once. And when he opened his eyes again, Sam was gone. Micah screamed. The flashlight spun across the room, empty. The window hadn't moved. The door was still shut. But where Sam had been sitting was just a hollow. Not a body. Not a pile of clothes. Just a shape in the carpet. Flattened. Like he had been pressed out of this world. Or pulled inside another. Then from inside Caleb's closet. Tap, tap, tap. Not knocking. Breathing. The kind that drips down your spine. Caleb picked up the flashlight with shaking hands. Micah stood behind him, holding the chalk like a weapon. They stepped to the door. They opened it. Nothing. Only clothes. But between the shirts, in the far back corner, something moved. A black shape, twitching like it didn't know how to wear skin anymore. Then it looked at them. No eyes. Just an open space. Like a hole where a person used to be. And from that hollow came a whisper. He fit me better than you will. Caleb screamed. Micah fell back. The salt circle shattered. And the lights blew out. In the dark, the hollow man stepped forward. The next morning, they found Caleb by the river. His eyes were open, but they didn't blink. His lips were moving, but no words came out. Only soft, broken breaths that sounded like someone crying underwater. He didn't remember what happened. Only that the hollow man had spoken to him. And tried him on. Like a coat made of skin. Micah and Sam took him to the old church. It was the only place left that still had its windows. Still had a roof. It had been closed for years, ever since the preacher screamed during a Sunday sermon and ripped his own eyes out. They chained Caleb to one of the pews, not to punish him, but to protect him. To protect themselves. Because something had followed them back. The church was dark and full of dust. Burnt candles lined the walls. The floorboards whispered when you stepped on them like voices trapped under wood. Micah drew the salt circle again. Sam lit the candles. They watched Caleb's face, waiting for a sign that the hollow man was still inside. I think it likes us, Micah said. Sam stared at him. Micah's hands were shaking. It's not just hunting anymore. It's playing. Testing us. Then we stop playing, Sam said. We trap it. For good this time. But how? Sam looked at the wall behind the pulpit. A cracked painting of a weeping angel stared back. We make it choose. Night fell. The church breathed. And at exactly 9 p.m. the candle flames turned black. The chains rattled. Not from Caleb. From something inside him. His back arched. His jaw stretched. His mouth opened wide. Wider than a human mouth should. And from that hole something stepped out. Not fully. Just its face. A face without eyes. A mouth that didn't close. A grin made from someone else's teeth. Micah threw the salt. Sam read from the book. The one they found behind Jonah's furnace, filled with scribbles and names no one should say. Caleb screamed, but the voice wasn't his. You think fire burns me? The hollow man spat. I was born in it. The chains snapped tight. The floor cracked. The stained glass windows began to melt like wax. Sam kept reading. Micah shouted the final word. The air grew still. And then the hollow man spoke again. But softer. Weaker. Don't send me back, it begged. His body changed. Shifted. Looked like Jonah. Burned, broken, bleeding, but still him. The eyes. The limp. The voice. Please, Jonah said. Please. I locked it away. I swear. You don't understand. If you kill me again, it won't stay trapped. It'll tear through the veil. Micah hesitated. Sam didn't. He dropped the match. The salt circle lit up with blue fire. Jonah, or whatever wore him, screamed. The sound was too big for the room. It shook the cross from the wall. It shattered every window. It turned the candles into ash. Then silence. Just Caleb lying on the ground, coughing. Micah helped him up. Sam stared at the flames dying out. Is it gone? Caleb asked. No, Sam said, his voice hollow. It's free. They looked at the pews, the chains, the ashes curling on the floor like fingers. And there, burned into the wood, was something new. A symbol. A door. Half open. Micah stepped back. It wasn't trying to take us. Sam nodded, eyes wide. It was trying to get through us. They left the church before sunrise. Didn't speak. Didn't sleep. The smell of ash followed them home even after they changed clothes. Even after they washed their hands. Something had passed through the veil that night. Something Jonah had spent his life holding back. And now it was looking for something else. Something new. The next day, every mirror in town cracked down the center. And in each shard, the boys saw the same thing. Their own faces, but smiling with someone else's mouth. The hollow man was gone. But something had stayed behind. Not footsteps. Not shadows. Something quieter. Memory. Micah woke up to a room filled with whispers. They came from under his bed. Inside the light bulb. Behind his own reflection. They didn't say words. They just repeated sounds. His laughter. His screams. His father's final breath. He pressed his hands to his ears and sobbed. But the whispers only got louder. Sam wasn't sleeping either. He'd begun to see doors. Not real ones. They didn't open or close. But everywhere he looked, walls, clouds, even in people's eyes, he saw them. Thin cracks. Half open. Always waiting. One time, he blinked and found himself standing in front of his basement door at 3 a.m. No idea how he got there. No idea what had been knocking. Caleb stopped talking entirely. He just stared out his bedroom window every night at 9 p.m. Waiting. Watching. Sometimes he smiled. But it wasn't his smile. They returned to the church the next night. It was still burned. Still broken. But the symbol on the floor had grown. Where once there had been a door, now there was a mouth. Wide open. Etched in ash and bone. And it was breathing. Micah stepped close. The wind from its mouth whispered his name. But not in his own voice. In his father's. Sam grabbed his arm. Don't listen. That's how it gets in. But it remembers him, Micah said. His voice. His cough. Even the joke he told me on my birthday. He stopped, shaking. It remembers what I've forgotten. That was when Caleb finally spoke. Then we give it what it wants. Micah and Sam turned. Caleb stood beside the pulpit. His face blank. His hand held a knife. Feed it, he said. Feed it something true, something real, and maybe it'll stop hunting us. Micah stepped forward. What do you mean? Caleb knelt by the mouth and whispered, I hated him. The ground rumbled. The mouth shivered. Sam shouted, What are you doing? Caleb's voice cracked. My father. Everyone thought he was good, kind, but he wasn't. Not to us. He hid. He screamed. And I smiled at his funeral like I was finally safe. The breath from the mouth grew faster, hungrier. Micah's eyes welled with tears. He stepped forward. My dad never came home, but I always waited, always made an extra plate, even on Christmas. I knew he was dead, but I still set the table. The mouth sighed, almost satisfied. Sam stood frozen. No, he said. You're feeding it pieces of yourselves. Micah turned. It already took Jonah. If we don't give it something, it'll take more. Not like this, Sam whispered. Not with truth. Then the church bell rang. It hadn't worked in years, but it rang 9 times. 9 strikes. The mouth opened wider. The wind turned black. Ash rose from the cracks like smoke from an ancient fire. And the voice returned. Oh, familiar. What you feed remembers you. Sam looked down. His hands were gone. No, not gone. They were fading, like he was being forgotten. Micah screamed. Caleb fell to his knees. The mouth began to close. And in that final second, Sam threw something in. Not blood, not a name, but a memory. His first birthday cake. His mom's voice singing. His father's arms lifting him out of a nightmare. He gave the creature something it didn't know. The mouth snapped shut. The church exploded in white light. Then everything went silent. When they opened their eyes, they were outside. The church was gone. Not burned. Not broken. Gone. Just ashes in the wind. Micah touched his face. Still there. Caleb breathed. Still whole. Sam looked up at the stars. Still human. But deep in the ground, something turned. Something that now knew what love tasted like. And it was hungry for more. The 3 boys were never the same after the church disappeared. They tried to return to normal. School, chores, dinner with quiet mothers. But every time they looked in a mirror, something looked back that wasn't entirely them. Micah stopped answering to his name. Not because he didn't want to, because he couldn't remember it. At first it was just a slip. He'd hear Micah and hesitate, blinking like it belonged to someone else. Then one day in class the teacher said his name 3 times, louder each time. He didn't respond, until she touched his shoulder. He jumped up screaming, That's not mine. That's not mine anymore. Caleb forgot his brother's face. Every time he closed his eyes to picture him, it came back wrong. Not like a dream, like a mask. Too smooth, too still. He stared at old photos, trying to memorize the smile, the freckles, the chipped tooth. But the more he looked, the more the faces in the pictures began to shift. Eyes moved, teeth sharpened, smiles widened. Soon all the photos had to be burned. Sam tried to hold everything together. He wrote down names, drew maps, made recordings. But even those began to change. The letters in his notebook twisted when he wasn't looking. Recordings played voices he didn't recognize. Some that sounded like him, but older, sadder, hungrier. Then came the knocking. Always at 9 p.m. Soft, polite knocks on their bedroom windows. 3 knocks. Just 3. Followed by a whisper. Let me remind you. One night, Micah opened the window. Just a crack. And outside he saw himself. But taller. And smiling. Smiling with a mouth full of other people's teeth. The thing whispered, You gave it your father. Caleb gave it hate. Sam gave it love. But no one gave it your name. Micah slammed the window shut. Too late. The next morning, his mother screamed when she saw him. Who are you? He froze. Mom, it's me. She backed away crying, You're not my son. My son's name was, but she couldn't say it. Her mouth moved like she was choking on the word, like it had been taken. Sam knew what they had to do. He gathered them at his house in the basement, where the air was thick and nothing dared whisper. We're not being hunted anymore, he said. We're being collected. Caleb shook. By what? Sam held up an old, torn page from Jonah's journal. It was brittle, burned at the edges. One line remained. It doesn't want your body. It wants the weight of your life. The name, the meaning, the thread of memory that keeps you whole. Jonah called it the voice, Sam said. It eats names. And once it has yours, it can wear you without anyone knowing. Micah stared at his own hands. He couldn't remember how many fingers he had. He had to count. Twice. They decided to fight back. But how do you fight something that eats who you are? They broke into the school library. Not for books. For names. Old school rosters. Town records. Grave markers. They read their names out loud. Again and again. Carved them in their skin with pens. Taped them to their walls. Burned them into wooden floorboards. Sam even stitched his name into the inside of his shirt, over his heart. But still the voice whispered. Still the knocks came. One night, Caleb didn't come to the meeting. They found him sitting on the roof of his house. Naked, shivering. His mouth stuffed with dirt. Words were scratched into his arms. He knows me now. He wears me better than I did. Micah turned to Sam. We have to find its home. The real place. Where it keeps the names it's eaten. Sam nodded. We go tonight. So they did. Armed with fire, salt, and the last map Jonah ever drew. It led them past the trees, past the old river, to a place not on any real map. A clearing with no birds, no bugs, just silence so deep it pressed on their teeth. In the center was a well, covered in symbols. Micah leaned over the edge. No bottom, just whispers, all saying one thing. Say your name. Feed the voice. Sam stared down into the dark and whispered, not this time. Then he struck a match and dropped it in. From the well came a scream that had no mouth. It was every voice the creature had ever stolen, all shouting in pain, rage, and hunger. Then the ground shook, the sky cracked, and the boys ran. Behind them the voice howled, but for the first time, sounded afraid. The boys didn't speak for days, not after the well, not after the voice screamed in 1,000 stolen tongues. But silence didn't mean safety, because something had changed. The air smelled different, like skin that had been peeled from something still living. Sam was the first to feel it. At 9 p.m. sharp every night, his bones itched beneath his skin. Not a rash, not pain, like something inside was shifting. He started wearing gloves to hide the peeling on his fingers. By the third night, his fingernails had become translucent. On the fourth, they weren't there at all. Micah heard his father's voice again, but not from dreams, from the walls, the pipes, the radio when it wasn't plugged in. And every time it spoke, it said the same thing. There's more than one Jonah. They met in Caleb's garage. He had written something on the wall, over and over again. It's not just a curse. It's a cocoon. The voice hadn't been trying to kill them. It had been preparing them, shaping them, so it could be born, through them. Sam pulled out the last page from Jonah's journal. He hadn't shared it until now. The ink was smeared, but the message was clear. I peeled myself open to trap it. I thought I was strong enough, but I was only the first skin. It wants more. That night, they didn't wait for 9 p.m. They went back to where Jonah had lived, to the basement, still sealed, still scorched black. But now there were handprints on the walls, dozens, all facing outward. Inside they found what remained of Jonah, not his body, his journals, his chains, and one final message burned into the floor. It peels what it remembers. Then the clock struck 9, and the air changed, again. Micah doubled over, his spine bending the wrong way. Sam vomited black liquid that sizzled on the floor. Caleb's mouth unhinged, wider than a human jaw, and a voice came out. Not his, Jonah's. But not Jonah as they knew him. This voice was deeper, angrier. You were never supposed to come here. You were never supposed to look under the skin. The basement door slammed shut. The chains snapped into the air like snakes and wrapped around Sam and Micah's arms. Caleb stepped forward, eyes rolling white. I remember now, he said in Jonah's voice. I'm not the monster. I'm the cage. The voice inside him was fighting. But Caleb, whatever part of him was left, was fighting back. Micah screamed, "Don't let it out." But it was too late. Caleb's skin began to blister. Then it peeled. First his face, then his arms, then his chest like old wallpaper curling from a wall. And underneath was Jonah, burnt, bleeding, breathing, but wrong. Too tall, too thin, eyes like empty wells, teeth made of memory. Jonah, the real Jonah, stepped forward and whispered, "This is my last yes." He looked at Micah, at Sam, and then shoved his own hand into his chest. The wound opened like a mouth. The room screamed. Every name it had ever eaten poured out, like black wind, like ghosts made of ash and sorrow. The walls cracked. The chains melted. The skin that once held Jonah crumbled. And then, silence. Caleb gasped and fell to the floor. He was whole, human. Micah reached for him. Sam fell beside them. All three sat in the ashes, breathing, alive. In the dark, a sound rose. Not a scream, not a voice, a heartbeat, their own. And somewhere in that ruined basement, they heard one more whisper. I was not the monster, just the mask. The skin was gone now, but what had lived beneath it was still learning how to breathe. Epilogue. Weeks passed. They healed, or pretended to. But every mirror still flickered. Every silence still had an echo. And at 9 p.m. they kept all their doors locked. Not because they feared the creature, but because they feared becoming it. Sometimes on the wind they still heard Jonah's voice. Not screaming, just whispering, softly. Thank you. If you're still breathing, congratulations. You survived another tale from Majesty Horror Story. But the nightmare doesn't end here. Hit subscribe, tap that like button and share this story, or she might pay you a visit tonight. Don't forget, they're watching who doesn't share. Sleep tight.